And welcome back to Summit Point Raceway for the April MARRS presented by OG Racing. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Brian Donati. And Brian, coming up next is going to be Spec Racer Ford and Spec Racer Ford Gen 3. Why don't we run down the starting order?
Sure. Starting in 18th, in the number 2 from Wayne, Pennsylvania, is Richard Herman. Starting in the 17th position from Frederick, Maryland, the number 50 of Melanie Meckel. Starting in 16th position from Annapolis, Maryland, the number 33 of Dave Trussell. Starting in 15th position from Vienna, Virginia, the 41 of Philip Ackley. Starting in the 14th position from Grand Island, Maryland, the 07 of Amy Gould. Starting in the 13th position from Frederick, Maryland, the 51 of Eric Prespicius. Starting in the 12th position from Westchester, Pennsylvania, the number 5 of Mike Kosu. Starting in the 11th position from Columbia, Maryland, the 14th of Kevin Silbert. Starting in the 10th position from Baltimore, Maryland, the 25, and we saw him earlier, Aaron Meisner. Starting in the 9th position from Annapolis, Maryland, the 7 of Keith Fraser. Starting in the 8th position from Gibson, Maryland, is the 09 of Matthew Polk, and I think that's supposed to be Gibson Island, Maryland.
Yes, I think so.
Starting in the 7th from Leonardtown, Maryland, the 13th, and we saw him earlier as well, Andrew Waldorf. Starting in 6th position from Littlestown, Pennsylvania, number 3 of J. Mark Wendling. Starting in the 5th position from Vienna, Virginia, the 71 of John Hall. Starting in the 4th position from Chesapeake, Virginia, the number 74 of Joe Blanks. Starting in the 3rd position from Washington, D.C., the number 30 of Mac Harrison. And starting on the front row in the 2nd position from Staunton, Virginia, the number 11 of Jisoo Kim. And on the pole, the time 120.621 from Boyd's, Maryland, the 55 of Sam Schechter.
All right, there you go. That is the starting order for today's sprint race in Spec Racer Ford and Spec Racer Ford Gen 3. Now, Richard Herman, who's starting at 18th today, he is our sole racer, assuming he comes out to run. He's our sole racer in one of the Gen 2 Spec Racer Ford machines using the Iron Block 1.9-liter Ford Escort motor that had gone into the Spec Racers once Renault had pulled out of the United States back in the late 80s, and all of the other machines are running the much newer, much lighter 1.6 liters out of the Ford Focus. And with the wet weather here, Brian, this might be a bit of an equalizer for Herman. That he's still down quite a bit on power and maybe a little bit on torque as well, but that might actually prove to be an advantage as he's working here in the damp conditions.
Yeah, I think some of these, you're right. I think it could be a little bit of an equalizer. I think as the track is starting to dry up now, and again, we saw as we're getting the 1 minute here, one and go, from down on the grid and from across the call on the radio, I think these guys are going to be back to their dry, their slick tires, and I think that's going to change a little bit. But you're right. I think in some parts of the section, some parts of this racetrack, that could be a little equalizer for him because he's not going to have to really get out of it too much to get through there, and that's probably going to help him.
Yeah, we can see now on the front straight, Brian, there are a lot of areas where the dampness seems to have dissipated, and I don't want to say there is a dry line, but having 40-plus Miatas out just a few moments ago, I think went a long way, given that a lot of them were racing side by side, to evacuating a lot of the water, at least off the front straight. We can't see so well down at turn 1, but it looks as though maybe getting somewhat dry also, Brian, as we look over towards turn 10, leading on to the front straight. There is also, past the apex, quite a bit of track that doesn't have that damp sheen to it.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to see as the race goes on who starts to push the issues through some of these corners and, again, tries to go in with a higher entry speed and see if it affects them. As we've got our last cars pulling off the pit lane now for our sole single pace lap here, and we do have the last car pulling onto the track now. Again, this is scheduled to be, as all of our races, well, I'm showing here, Brian, and we hadn't gotten word of this, but I'm going to go by what we have in timing and scoring, where we're showing this as being a 12-lap or 24-minute race. So I think in order to get to complete the day before the, I think, 5:30 cutoff today, they've gone and shortened the last races here this afternoon. And again, after this race, we'll have 3 more. Big bore, small bore, and our open wheel racers will round out the day. We'll do it all again tomorrow with our much longer feature races starting tomorrow morning. We will have our bracket race at 8:15, and then we'll have 2 warm-up sessions for our sprint racers. So we will likely have cars on course for our second race of the day, and the start of the MARRS races right around 9 a.m. or thereabouts.
Yeah, as our cars now are going through turn 5, getting ready to come through the carousel here, Greg, I was, listening to what you were talking about some of these lines coming out of turn 10, looking through binoculars down to turns 1 and 2, and again, I think some of them may be a little bit drier now because Kevin Kopp found all the wetness going in there a couple times into one. But I think that it is getting to be where the normal drive line is here.
Yes,
is starting to dry out. I think if you start to make moves and go side by side, as our cars are getting ready to come up underneath the Toyota bridge there, I think that is where it could be a little bit, a little bit of a concern, and you're going to have to tiptoe through there. So we'll have to see, as it looks like our pace car now should be coming up on pit road now. Here comes our front row.
And Sam Schechter now with the field. Jisoo Kim in the bright yellow Spec Racer Ford Gen 3 to his left as our starters are looking over the field, and green flag is now in the air, and we are underway here in Spec Racer Ford and Spec Racer Ford Gen 3 as the 55 machine is Sam Schechter, Brian, like he was shot out of a cannon, got almost a car length and a half on Jisoo Kim, and Mac Harrison now side by side with Kim. Harrison having started in third as they go into 1.
Yeah, give that early lead to 55, Sam Schechter. He gets through now. Second place looks like it's going to be Mac Harrison as they come to turn 2. And again, Jisoo Kim, not used to the yellow, used to looking for the white car. But now Jisoo Kim in that yellow number 11 machine, he's up into third. And then throw back there into the 74. That's Joe Blank. That's your top 4 as they head up into turn 3 and down the hill to turn 4 into turn 5.
Yeah, and as they came out of 2, heading towards 3, Matt Polk in the 09 machine at Gibson Island. He's maybe already about 5 car lengths back from our top 4 drivers. Mark Wendling about 2 cars back from there. And then Aaron Meisner. Great to see Aaron back here in the series. A longtime racer with the DC region. Started off many years ago before I started racing in ITA. Did some prototype cars for a time, and has been in Spec Racer Fords now for the past, 7 or 8 years or so. And so Aaron running in 7th position with Keith Fraser, Mike Kosov, and Kevin Silbert, your top 10.
Yeah, heading through turn 5 there. Again, unfortunately, we don't have our turn 8. I'd say that's the wettest part of the racetrack is turn 8, but that's from earlier.
Yes.
Since it went out and just having to look at the camera there. As here comes our leader past the start-finish line, Sam Schechter opening up by about a full, I'd say 7/10, almost a full second there, Greg, over Mac Harrison, Jisoo Kim as they head down into turn 1, and then Joe Blank. Your front 4 starting to pull away, and then opening up to Matthew Polk in that 09 machine. Now Jisoo Kim trying to go drivers right into turn 1. Joe Blanks hits the traditional line there. We'll see whether or not Blanks is going to be able to get up next to him. Here they come. They're going to think about going side by side there into out of turn 2 up into turn 3, but give that spot back to Jisoo Kim. So Joe Blanks getting that traditional line. Jisoo Kim running a different line into turns 1 and 2. That may have held him up and allowed Blanks to get up side by side with him.
Yeah, I think Kim, much like we were talking before, Kevin Kopp had his first spin in the last race. Kim stayed a little bit, maybe a half a car width to the inside in the hopes that maybe there was a little bit more grip there than all the way drivers left, and that really it gave Blanks maybe the opportunity for a little bit of a run. But as they came out of 2, made their way to 3, Kim kept that yellow number 11 almost dead center of track, and it really forced Blanks to make a decision very early on. If he was going to stick the car all the way drivers left, stay to the inside, which would have been very difficult to make it through 3, or if he was just going to get back to the line, and he decided early on to just get back behind Kim.
Yeah, and Jisoo Kim probably thought, hey, that the center of the track is the driest. Let me try that.
Yeah.
And that, again, Blanks decided to go to that driver's left to go through and run that traditional line. Here they come across the start-finish line. Sam Schechter opening it up now a little bit, Greg. That's 1.5 seconds over Mac Harrison, then Jisoo Kim, and now Joe Blanks has fallen about three car lengths back from Kim for that last podium spot. Again, still early on, but the class of the field right now seems to be that 55 of Sam Schechter that come out of turn 2, headed up into turn 3.
Yeah, and so that time Harrison as well as Kim stayed about two-thirds of a car width off of the edge of the track driver's left, and Kim just followed him right on through. But they are continuing to outpace Joe Blanks that last time by almost 0.3 of a second. But Sam Schechter by almost 0.7 faster than any of the cars back behind him, with the exception of Keith Fraser running in 5th. Fraser just ran the fastest lap of the race, and he was about 0.2 faster than our leader Schechter. But he's got to find a way to get past 3 more cars, even just to be sitting behind our leader Schechter.
And Keith Fraser getting that pull and that tug from Jisoo Kim and Joe Blank.
Yes.
They kind of just spread out a little bit. That allowed that air to open up and allowed Fraser to get that fastest lap.
Yeah, as Fraser put Matt Polk, and Polk, who had been sitting down in 5th, now finds himself in 6th, with Wendling, Kosick, Silbert, and Aaron Meinster rounding out the top 10 as our leaders come out of turn 10 and onto the front straight. And it is again Sam Schechter. We'll see if Fraser can improve upon that last lap time. Yeah.
Well, the lap time is going to be a little bit slower, but he got around Joe Blank, so move Keith Fraser up into that 4th position as he starts to set his sights on Jisoo Kim in that 3rd position of that number 11 machine there. As they come out of turn 2, he is right on the back gearbox of Jisoo Kim coming out, and then a little bit in front is Mac Harrison, but Sam Schechter continues to open it up. It's now 1.8 seconds, Greg, as they come up into turn 3, head down the chute into turn 4 and turn 5. You'll see them in the cameras there, but again, Keith Fraser starting to make his move over Jisoo Kim.
All right, Brian, real quick, let's make a call to the grid for our next one. Attention in the paddock, first call to the grid for race group number 6. That's our big bore group. American Sedan, GT1, 2, and 3, GTA and GTX, ITE, ITR, Spec Corvette, SPO, STU, T1, T2, and T3. Please start heading to the grid. Race group number 6, our big bore group. Please head to the grid.
Waiting for our leaders now, Greg, to come out of turn 10, which should be Sam Schechter leading this group. Here he comes out of turn 10 now. Now you've got Mac Harrison, Jisoo Kim. Again, that battle between Keith Fraser and Joe Blanks is starting to heat up as they start to pull that snake a little bit, Greg, where Mac Harrison comes out and goes driver's right out of turn 10. That may hurt them as now Keith Fraser and Jisoo Kim, they're looking to make that move over Mac Harrison, headed down the front stretch and into turn 1. Looks like Mac Harrison and Jisoo Kim, they're going to be side by side. Keith Fraser trying to figure out where to go. Now throw in Joe Blank. Joe Blank and Keith Fraser are side by side going through the center of turn 2. And now Mac Harrison, Jisoo Kim, they're side by side as they come up out of turn 2 and headed to turn 3. It looks like Jisoo Kim may have the advantage there over Mac Harrison, and he does give the position to Jisoo Kim in 2nd place over Mac Harrison.
Yeah,
down to turn 4.
nice run there, and Kim came right across the nose of Harrison, just past the apex, didn't give him any room or any way to get back by, but Harrison, as he led that field out of turn 10 all the way to the inside, in a class like Spec Race Ford where the draft does work so well, it allowed Kim and it allowed Fraser to carry more speed down the front straight, and Kim was able to pull right up alongside Harrison. Harrison had no way to open that corner back up, and Kim, to his credit, he didn't pull all the way over driver's left. He tried to pin Mac Harrison in as far to the inside as he could to really compromise his exit speed.
Yeah, coming out of turn 10 there, making that move just a little bit quickly to the right, but now Jisoo Kim has opened that up by about 4 or 5 car lengths over those two of Mac Harrison, Jisoo Kim, Keith Fraser, and now Joe Blanks. So Blanks and Fraser are going to start to work together to see whether or not they're going to be able to make that pass over Mac Harrison. I don't believe they're going to be able to get that done by the time they get down into 1. I think Fraser may be able to get by Mac Harrison as they're going to go side by side into turn 1, Greg. We'll see if that sticks. Joe Blanks is just going to sit back and watch to see what happens there, and then he may be able to come up on driver's right and take that position, but it doesn't look like he's going to get that done. As they start to battle, Greg, one of the cars that you want to start looking at here into this group is the 09 of Matthew Polk. Matthew Polk is starting to close up into that group with Mac Harrison, Keith Fraser, and Joe Blank.
Yeah, exactly. As the cars ahead start to go side by side through some of these corners and really impact their exit speeds, that allows Polk now to pull right back up for what is essentially now a four-car battle for the last step on the podium. As with Fraser and Blanks fighting, it's really, and Harrison fighting, it has really allowed Jisoo Kim just in the course of one lap to open up about 10 car lengths on that second pack.
Yeah, so first and second starting to pull away a little bit from that pack. And that's going to come down about who wants that last podium spot here. Again, the draft, as you talked about it now, as we talk about it, here comes Jisoo Kim, and now Keith Fraser is right on the back gearbox of Jisoo Kim as they come out of turn 10. And then you got about another 6-7 car lengths back to the 30 of Mac Harrison and the 74 Joe Blank.
All right, here is Brian. Now we're about halfway through this race. Neat to see there, because Jisoo Kim on the previous lap had opened up such a huge advantage over Fraser and Harrison and Blanks. And to see now Keith Fraser, he just set the fastest lap of the race, almost 1.2 seconds faster than Jisoo Kim. That blue and white number 7 right on the back, right on the gearbox of Jisoo Kim's yellow number 11. All right, Brian, so now that we are halfway through, let me make another call to the grid for our next group. Attention in the paddock, second call to the grid for race group number 6, our big bore group, American Sedan, GT1, 2, and 3, GTA and GTX, ITE, ITR, Spec Corvette, SPO, STU, scoring 1, 2, and 3. Race group number 6, big bore, please start heading to the grid.
Tell you what, Greg, these drivers are really starting to push the limit, especially coming out of turn 2 and heading up into turn 3. They're getting that right rear, right into the rumble strips there, which is still very wet, and these cars are starting to slide a little bit going through there. So you've got to make sure that you continue that focus. Here comes our leader now, Sam Schechter, and now Keith Fraser is going to come out of turn 10, and he's going to get a good run and go side by side with Jisoo Kim. Greg, what that's going to do is that's going to allow at some point Mac Harrison and Joe Blanks, and as I say that, Joe Blanks decided he wants to go side by side, through there. So again, Keith Fraser is going to move him up into second place over Jisoo Kim. We'll see if he's able to make that stick coming out of turn 2. Looks like he's going to make that, as he's got about a car length lead now over Jisoo Kim. So moves Keith Fraser up into that second position. Jisoo Kim back to third. Joe Blanks has moved up into fourth and moved Mac Harrison back to fifth. Yeah, so moved the 74 car up the position, moved the 30 machine back down, and so Harrison, who at one point and at the start of this race was on running in second, now finds himself back in fifth position here in this race. And you said it, Brian, just as Jisoo Kim and Keith Fraser were going side by side down into turn 1, this would have been the best opportunity for Harrison and for Blanks to maybe close up on that battle for the last step on the podium. And instead, they went door to door, side by side down into turn number 1 and did not and could not gain any ground, as that's how they went through turn 1 as well. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sitting back here watching, coming out of turn 1 here just a moment ago. I was watching the 25 Aaron Meisner, the 2 of Richard Herman, and the 41 of Philip Ackley. They almost went 3 wide down into turn 1, as here comes our leaders now. And Greg, I tell you what, here comes Keith Fraser. He is right on the back gearbox of Sam Schechter. I'll get back to the Herman, Meisner, and Ackley here in a second, but Keith Fraser has really got that thing on a roll right now. Just ran the fastest lap of the race last time by 1:25.6. But him and Sam Schechter now, they're going to go battle. That's going to be for the lead.
Yeah, here we go. And I don't know what happened. I haven't heard anything over the radio that might have led to Sam Schechter falling into the grasp of Ken Fraser, other than the fact, Brian, that Fraser, that last time by, 1.8 seconds faster than our leader Schechter, turning it on when he needs to turn it on. And maybe Schechter, feeling a little complacent there, sitting in the lead, just didn't see it coming.
Absolutely. As they start to head down through turn 5, head through turn 6, coming through there, you can see that on that camera that Fraser's still on the back gearbox of Sam Schechter. I'm going to jump back real quick to the Meisner, Herman, and Ackley machines. That's 11, 12, and 13. They're just now going into turn 2. And I tell you what, Greg, all 3 of those are nose to tail. So that's another battle going on. That's a 3-car battle. Again, 11th, 12th, and 13th, respectively.
That's right. And so Ackley, for the longest time, having raced baby Grams here at Summit Point, and in the same race group as you, as a matter of fact, Brian,
And doing it today, too.
Yeah, he is running the baby Grand and small bore. Oh, that'll be great to see. Phil is he is a sportsman, we'll say, and I know he loves his Corvettes, he loves his Porsches, and Phil has been racing here at Summit Point, I think, since the mid-'80s. And so he's got a lot of time. But here, Brian, as we take a look at our leaders now coming out of turn 2, side by side as Scheckter keeps his car driver's left, coming out of turn 2, going into turn 3. He holds off the number 7 car of Fraser for the time being, as the next time they cross the line, whoever it may be will have 2 laps remaining.
I tell you what, that was almost a defensive line there with Sam
It
Scheckter
was.
kind of going into the center of the racetrack in order to hold off Keith Fraser, because Keith Fraser had the line. But when you put somebody in the center of the track, here comes the battle I was talking about. Now throw Richard Herman in that 11th, Phil Ackley in the 41 machine in 12th, and the 25 of Aaron Miser. Going to drop him back to 13th. I talked about Phil Ackley. I did not see him on the sheet this morning. I do know that he was testing his baby grain yesterday, but I don't believe he is going to.
All right, well, we'll know soon enough in 2 more races when he's scheduled. So we'll see if he brings that little thing out. And Brian, here we go. And it is no longer a 2-car fight for the lead. I call it now a 3-car fight, as Jisoo Kim, who has been, I mean, basically a rubber band today. He's been on track the whole time, but he has been on pace, off pace. Now side by side for the lead, going down into turn number 1. And our leader, I think that's Sam Scheckter to driver's right. He holds off Keith Fraser for the moment, coming through 2.
Yeah, coming through turn 2, Greg. He's still holding that lead, but now Keith Fraser's going to get that line again. Sam Schecter's going to run the center of the racetrack there, which is not going to allow Keith Fraser to get the run up into the apex of turn 3. Has to take it a little wide, but that definitely is going to bring in Jisoo Kim. We'll look at our cameras here coming through turn 4 and see kind of what it is. They're going to be coming up on the number 50 machine, headed down through turn 5. There's Scheckter going through now. That's the second car through the camera going through turn 6. He's going to get up underneath the 50 machine. I believe that's Melanie Meckel underneath there. So we'll see where the other ones are going to come up on her, and we'll have to look when they come back up through turn 10 to see if they're able to get underneath.
All right, Brian, as our leaders are coming through turn 8, let's make a final call to the grid for our next group. Attention in the paddock, final call to the grid for race group number 6, Big Bore. Please start heading to the grid. For race group number 6, Big Bore, your race is next.
Here we are getting the 1 to go, Sam Scheckter. We'll see whether or not Keith Fraser's going to be able to pull up and get down there. Looks like Scheckter's going to open it up by about another 3-4 car length there. 1.1 second lead going into turn 1. So whatever Sam was just laying back there, letting Fraser do it, he was able to pull that away. And I think that may have been a product of getting under the 50 of Melanie Meckel in the right spot.
Yeah, exactly. As Scheckter was almost 9/10 of a second faster than either Fraser or Jisoo Kim. Great battle, Brian, back behind them going down into turns 1 and 2, and that's Joe Blanks, Matt Harrison, Eric Prepsius that were 3 wide going down in the 1. Somehow they managed to all get through there in one piece.
I don't think Melanie held up Eric. I don't believe they're going to hold each other out.
That would probably be bad for the relationship, yes.
I don't think she was going to hold him up. Let's take a look back here a little bit further as we're waiting for our top guys to come out. Here comes Richard Herman in the number 2 machine. He's going to be 11th. Philip Ackley's opened up, dropped back a little bit more. I am not seeing Aaron Meisner, and now Andy Gold's going to be in 13th place. So evidently Meisner either pitted or...
I got where he did take the car back to the pits last time by Brian as our leaders now coming out of turn number 10 onto the front straight. And we'll break, and there you go, hands in the air, fist in the air, Sam Scheckter taking the win. Keith Fraser will finish in second. Jisoo Kim will bring his car home in third. And side by side at the line, Eric Prepsius and Mac Harrison, margin between the two as Prepsius takes fourth, 9/100ths of a second. Mac Harrison will finish in fifth. Then Joe Blanks, Matt Polk, And Polk and Wendling, Brian, also practically on top of one another coming across the line. The difference between 7th place Polk and 8th place Wendling, 3/100ths of a second. Then Kevin Silbert will come home 19 seconds back from there in 9th, and Mike Kosip, pretty darn close, about 3 car lengths back, finishes in 10th. All right, so that is our Spec Racer Ford race. And again, everybody, if you like what you see, please go ahead, and my button again isn't working. If you like what you see, go ahead, give us a thumbs up here on YouTube.